Hola! Today I want to talk about some of the differences between Spanish and English grammar. There are a whole bunch of differences, but I'm just going to mention a few. The first one we're going to do is the difference of the order of adjectives and nouns. So I'm going to write in English, blue blouse. And in Spanish, this will be blusa azul. So this says blue blouse in English, and this says blusa azul in Spanish. The difference is that blue is an adjective right here, and the adjectives come before the noun in English. But in Spanish, blusa is blouse. Blouse is the noun. And the nouns come first in Spanish, and then you describe them with the adjective after. So I'll name a couple examples, but this is one example of that. Blue blouse becomes blusa azul, not azul blusa. So you can't just translate directly from English to Spanish. You can't just say blue blouse in the order that you're used to. You have to switch it around and reverse it to blouse blue. Noun first, adjective after. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to name some examples with different genders. And what I mean by that is all nouns in Spanish have a gender. All nouns in Spanish are either masculine or feminine. And there's really no rhyme or reason to it, but there are articles, meaning the, a, or an, that are masculine and feminine. There are nouns that are masculine and feminine, and there are adjectives that are masculine and feminine. So I'm going to write an example of all three. Now I don't have the colors that I usually use to differentiate these. But I'll explain in Spanish. And I'm just writing 4 examples so you can see the change in the gender. I just got to make sure that I spell this right. Okay, so in this example, I'm going to use the color black, which in Spanish is negro. Negro. And there are 4 different kinds of black. There is masculine singular black, which is spelled negro. There's feminine singular black, which is negra. There's masculine plural black, which is negros. And there's feminine plural black, negras. They all mean the same thing. They all mean black. But when you write an article, which there are different assigned articles, el for masculine singular, la for feminine singular, los for masculine plural, las for feminine plural, and then you have the noun here. So we have el zapato negro. El zapato negro. That means the black shoe. Zapato comes first because we say the noun first, and then we say the adjective after. We describe what does the shoe look like. Then in this example we have la blusa negra. the black blouse. And it's negra because blusa is feminine. We have a feminine singular article, a feminine singular noun, and a feminine singular adjective. It all has to agree with the gender. I cannot say la blusa negro. I can't say las blusas negros. It doesn't agree. It all has to be the right gender and the right singularity or plurality. Then we have the plurals down here. Los zapatos negros. The black shoes or the shoes black. Las blusas negras. The black blouses. And so you see that we have 4 different versions of black because of gender and plurality. So those are important things to remember, because when you're sentence making in Spanish, you're going to need to make sure that your gender agrees. Now, if you're speaking to someone whose first language is Spanish, and you say something like la blusa negro, they will understand what you're trying to say, but it's not grammatically correct. So those are 2 differences. Like, for instance, do we have gendered nouns in English? Yes, we do, but just a few. We don't have a whole system of all our nouns having a gender. We have some gendered nouns such as the king. That's a man. The prince. Also a man or a boy. The queen. A woman. The princess. A younger woman or a girl. Those are examples of gendered nouns in English. But in Spanish, there are things that have gender that are quite random. For example, and I'll write these down. I can't write as fast as I'm speaking. We have la mesa. La mesa means table. What makes a table feminine? I mean, really, what about a table is feminine? Not to say a table's a masculine object, but I mean, it's just a table. You know, you'd think, how do they determine what is a masculine or feminine object? But I'm telling you, it's very random. Don't try to make sense of it, because your head will hurt. And I'll also do el libro, the book. Book is masculine. So these are some examples here of just, random words of random objects that have a gender. La mesa, the table, being feminine, and el libro, the book, being masculine. And what you have to do is you have to memorize which one is which. You need to know the gender of your objects, because when you have to describe them, you're going to need to make sure that your description agrees. Now, in the case of the first example I did, la blusa azul, the blue blouse, that one doesn't matter, because for masculine or feminine, it'll still be azul. So I'll draw that. Like if I have something masculine singular, el zapato azul, the blue shoe, and la blusa azul. Why are they both azul? Why is there no azulo or azula? Because in this case, for this word, azul just stays the same for the masculine singular or the feminine singular. But it will change when it becomes plural. So if we have 2 shoes or a bunch of shoes, los zapatos azules, we're going to add an es. And when you make things plural in Spanish, sometimes you add just an s, and sometimes you add es. In the case of negro, you just add an s. It becomes negros or negras. But for blue, it becomes azules. So you have los zapatos azules and las blusas azules. I ideally want to go over 10 different grammatical differences between English and Spanish, but I may not be able to reach that within the half an hour, so, because that's all my phone records at a time. This one, do, the word do in English. So when we ask a question, we'll say, do you speak English? Do you speak Spanish? Do you want to go to the store? Do you want that dress? Just do. And in Spanish, they don't really use do like that. There is a verb for do, which is hacer, to do or to make, but you don't write it nearly as frequently as you do in English. So if I were to ask the question, do you speak English? In Spanish, that's ¿tú hablas español? Or just hablas español? Now, when you ask ¿tú hablas español?, you're being very familiar and casual with someone. This is something you'd say to someone you know, or someone who's your friend, or someone who's your age. But if you're talking to a teacher or someone you just met, you want to be formal, you would say, ¿Usted habla español? Or habla español? Oh my gosh, I just realized that I wanted to ask the question, do you speak English? And I wrote Spanish, but I'll just change that English to Spanish since I wrote Spanish 4 times on this board. Okay, so this is changed to do you speak Spanish? ¿Tú hablas español? Or just hablas español? You can say it either way. And if you want to be formal, say ¿Usted habla español? Or just habla español? And there's no do here. So all you're really saying is speak Spanish? You speak Spanish? But in English, we have to put do. We have to put do you speak Spanish. In Spanish, you don't need to put do. It's not necessary. I'm going to check off what I've done so that I can keep account of what I have covered, which is 3 things. Oh, I'm also going to cover another word you don't need that doesn't exist in Spanish is not. Not is used, not, like, You know, when sometimes people who have broken English will say, I don't speak English. They're saying that because there's no not in Spanish. There's only a no. So if you want to negate something, you just say no. So to say, I don't speak English in Spanish, you don't say I don't, so there's no don't, and it's just I no speak English. And that's how it would translate literally. So in English, it's I don't speak English. And then you can say yo no hablo inglés. Yo no hablo inglés. Or yo no hablo inglés. Or you can say no hablo inglés. You can say either one. Either one is fine. So, yo no hablo inglés or no hablo inglés. And that's just like no speak English or I no speak English if I were to transliterate. So, in Spanish, you don't really use do in the way that you use it in English. And in Spanish, you also do not use not. You say no. No. Okay, now I'm going to go over something that's a little confusing. So, in Spanish, when someone is doing something to someone, we call those direct object pronouns. They stand in place for whoever is receiving an action. And pronouns, just regular pronouns, I think they're called personal pronouns, refer to the person who's doing something to somebody. So you then have a verb in between these two people. Someone is doing something to someone. So let's say, I don't know. Dance. Bailar. Now, this is going to be a different sentence because in English we say dance with someone. In Spanish, it's just dance without with. Excuse me. So it'll be, instead of I dance with you, it'll be I dance you. Or instead of it being you dance with me, it'll be you dance me. And that's what you're literally writing and saying. So, yo, that's I. And then te, that's you, the direct object, pronoun. Bailo, that's I dance. Or you can omit the personal pronoun and just say te bailo. Te bailo. So you can say yo te bailo or te bailo. So you have bailar, which is to dance. Yo te bailo. Te bailo. I dance with you. Now we're going to reverse it. We're going to say you dance with me. That'll be tú, the personal pronoun, me, the direct object pronoun, bailas, you dance. Tú me bailas or me bailas. You can say either one. Now the roles are reversed. Tú me bailas or me bailas means you dance with me. I mean, technically, if I dance with you or you dance with me, it's like the same thing, but you get what I'm saying. The focus is on one person versus the other person. It's all about perspective. Direct objects usually confuse people because the order is different. Because we're going to do another example. If I say I love you, that is yo te amo, or just te amo. But if I say you love me, it'll be tú me amas, or me amas for short. So we have the roles reversed here. Yo te amo, I love you. Te amo, I love you. Tú me amas, you love me. Now, here's the order, okay? You say the personal pronoun yo, and then te, you. So this is I, you, I love. That's what you're literally saying. So, like I said, when you take another language, any language, not just Spanish, you cannot directly translate. In fact, if anyone asked me if I could tell anyone one thing about learning languages before they learn a language, I would say you cannot directly translate. I mean, you can for some things, but certainly not everything. Because all languages don't have the same format, they don't have the same grammar, they have different order and nuance and idioms and things like that. And it's learning another language isn't just English with different words. It's a whole different system. Plus different words. And different pronunciation, among other things. Alright, gendered nouns. Let's see here. Oh, did that? Okay, now I'm going to tell you about passive say. Passive say is used for, how do I describe this? Nobody is doing something in particular. If I'm just saying, like, it's not we, it's not they, it's like if I say it is done or it is spoken. So if I say se habla español, I'm not saying he speaks Spanish or she speaks Spanish or we do or they do or anybody. I'm saying Spanish is spoken here. It's not focused on any particular person. It's just stating a fact that it exists. So when you say se habla español aquí, you're saying Spanish is spoken here. Se habla inglés allá. You're saying English is spoken over there. Se habla francés, French. Well, I already said here and there, so I'll just say here again. Aquí. Se habla francés aquí. They speak French here. So, this SE is the passive say, and you use it for when you're trying to say that no one in particular is doing something, but something exists, something is done, something, like it happens. if that makes sense. Like if I said, let me try a different verb. Se baila merengue en el restaurante. I'm saying merengue is danced in the restaurant by people. You know, somebody's doing it, but it's something that's done. Se baila merengue en el restaurante. Yep. So merengue is danced in the restaurant. That's what it is. That's what people do. Unfortunately, I only have 5 minutes left, so I'm not going to be able to get through all 10 things. But that's okay, because I just wanted to make this video to show you some grammatical differences in Spanish. We don't have to cover all of them, and I covered quite a few. Oh! Exceptions to gender. Here are 2 examples. El día y la mano. Okay? El día means the day. El día. Right? And la mano means the hand. Right? Cool. But there's something fishy here. El is a masculine singular article. But día ends in A. And most of the feminine singular nouns end in A. But you can't just assume that because something ends in A, it's gonna be a feminine singular noun. That's not the case for all of them. There are exceptions, and this is an exception. El día is an exception. So don't just go by that. Don't just go by looking at your nouns. Oh, it ends in A, it must be feminine singular. It's a good guess. Chances are it probably is. But that's not always the case. And here we have another reverse example. La mano. Mano ends in O. Most masculine singular nouns end in O. But la mano is feminine because of its article. The article, the definite or indefinite article, is what tells you what the gender of the noun is. So that's what you look to. It's not what it's ending in that tells you what its gender is. You need to know the article. You need to know what the article is. That will tell you the gender. I would like to do commands, mandatos, but even I myself get a little confused with commands. So I don't want to cover that and misspell anything, but commands are spelled in a very funny way. I will mention the subjunctive, but again, I also have trouble spelling subjunctive tense, so I'm not going to share any examples. But what is subjunctive? There's this entire tense in Spanish that exists, tenses. That's called the subjunctive, and it's for things that are not concretely true. They're like wishes and dreams and prayers and desires and wants. They're things that you want to come to fruition, things you want to be true, but they're not flat out real. So if there's a difference between me saying I am a teacher versus I want to be a teacher, and I think the way to phrase that in the subjunctive is yo. See, I don't know if it's yo quería ser una maestra or yo quiero que sea una maestra. I'm not sure. I've always struggled with the subjunctive, and subjunctive tense is like Spanish, I don't know if it's 2 or 3, but it's more like advanced. I try to avoid using subjunctive tense as much as possible because it's a really difficult tense. But yeah, the video's about to cut off, so I hope this was helpful, and I hope you were able to recognize some of the grammatical differences between Spanish and English.